Everyone, Jim Biringer here, NHLrumours.com, live from the Stanley Cup Final down in Raleigh ahead of Game 5. More news on a Thursday. It seems like it's always Thursday ahead of these games that news starts to break. Going to talk about Dylan Larkin. Obviously, he's got a 3-team list, could be expanded more in these rumors. Got to start out with Darnell Nurse. We talked about it last week in a combined effort with Full Press Hockey as well. Darnell Nurse is asking to be traded. He put in a trade request. The Edmonton Oilers were going to probably shop him and could have been on the move initially, but now he's put it in a 3 to 5 team list. We know he makes $9.25 million now. He has a full no movement clause until July 1st, 2027, so it's going to be tough. But now that it's out there, you can't bring him back. The Edmonton Oilers have cap trouble. Jake Wallman was signed to $7 million. He's not the same player he was, and maybe not worth that money. Evan Bouchard was asked to and took $10 million on his next salary. Connor McDavid, has the same salary that he has on a 2-year extension. It's all or nothing for the Edmonton Oilers. And we were going to talk about the Oilers anyway and Mike Babcock and how bad that situation is. But now the fact that one of the defensemen that you wanted to build around, and no fault to Darnell Nurse. Again, good on his agent when Ken Holland was the general manager to get him that money. But he was supposed to be a cornerstone piece. And look, he's not a $9.25 million defenseman. He's probably a $6 or $7 million defenseman, and that's okay. And maybe on another team he can be that guy, but he's being exposed, and the Oilers are they're taking steps backwards instead of taking steps forward under Stan Bowman and Jeff Jackson. And no matter who the coach is, the team has to buy into team defense. Yes, Darnell Nurse was signed to keep Connor McDavid happy. Well, the problem is you have 1 year with McDavid and maybe less, despite what Bob Stauffer said, where he believes McDavid's going to sign a 7-year contract next year. We'll see. Seeing is believing, as my uncle always used to say. But the fact of the matter is that Darnell Nurse heard the whispers. Year-end meetings were not great between the Edmonton Oilers and Darnell Nurse. It happened again last year. He was not happy that word got out that potentially he was on the move. Now there is word that he's going to be traded. They tried to trade him at the trade deadline. Again, do they bring in a Morgan Riley? Is that a swap? Does he go to Toronto? San Jose, we know, needs defensemen. The Chicago Blackhawks could use him. Philadelphia Flyers have had internal interest. Are those teams on his list? Do they want to trade for him? What are the Oilers going to get back? They need a lot. This team needs a lot. They need a third-line center, fourth-line center, winger for Hyman and McDavid. There's so much help the Edmonton Oilers need, and I think Leon Draisaitl said it best when they peaked. They peaked in 2024 with the Warren Fogels, with the Darnells, with the Cody Cece's, McLeods, guys like that. That was their best team. They were within a goal of winning the Stanley Cup. They were in a period. They got to Game 7, and everything's been going downhill ever since. And management's been poor with this team. You also have poor roster construction. The roster isn't as good. The team isn't as good. The Chris Knobloch situation, now the Bruce Cassidy stuff, that was their guy. They want a harder coach. Now you want to bring in Mike Babcock with his checkered past. In other sports, when a coach or a player is under investigation, outside the NFL, because that's different, but even still, they don't bring them in. They end everything. And now the Mike Babcock situation, the investigation is going to the NHLPA. There's going to be an investigation. Again, they want to win. They want a hard-nosed coach. That's fine. What happened with Ken Hitchcock, Dave Tippett, Tom McClellan, right? Guys like that. Jay Woodcroft pushed this team. Chris Knobloch was pushing this team. Again, Chris Knobloch got a 3-year contract extension, and that was completely fumbled. So now Darnell Nurse wants out. It's going to be interesting to see where he wants to go. But credit to Mark Spector. Again, we've been talking about potentially him being on the move, but now that he is on the move, it's now time. It's been time. He needed a change of scenery, and now Darnell Nurse is going to be moved by the Edmonton Oilers. It's just a matter of where. Another player, Dylan Larkin, again, touched on it last week. Dylan Larkin wants out of Detroit. He's tired of the losing, the contract negotiations, everything with not only the Red Wings, but how they have not gotten to the playoffs since 2016. This team needs to be better. They need to be better, and they need to take the next steps. And here they are, still missing the playoffs, 10 years of no playoffs. Steve Yzerman's lucky to still have a job from people I've spoken with. How a general manager gets 7 years of no playoffs is astounding, but that's what happens when you have a Hall of Fame general manager, and I'm not the only one that's saying it. Similar to why the New Jersey Devils haven't hired Martin Brodeur as a general manager, hard to fire that guy. Yes, Joe Sakic's done great work in Colorado. but then he moved up. Now he's back. It's going to be tough to move on from him if they struggle, right? And speaking of Joe Sakic, before we get to Dylan Larkin, Jared Bednar coming back as a head coach for all the naysayers out there. He's coming back. So back to Dylan Larkin. Where does he want to go? Got 3-team list. Well, obviously Florida, Vegas, Minnesota all make sense. Tampa's in there. Dallas has talked about him. Other teams have inquired. Could New Jersey inquire? Could Montreal call? Again, Dylan Larkin wants to go play with his buddies on Team USA. Whatever happened in that Team USA locker room, in that group text, whatever it is, felt like a recruiting trip. Seems like those players know what it takes to win now, how to bring camaraderie, how to do everything. It kind of started with Matthew Tkachuk, Quinn Hughes. Now, Quinn Hughes and Matthew Tkachuk, different situation. Matthew Tkachuk was more of an RFA. Quinn Hughes, again, had a couple of years left on his deal, but said he wanted out. Now, does the Team USA group from the Olympics decide they want to go elsewhere? Going to be very, very interesting to see. But Dylan Larkin on the move, where could he go? And similar with Quinn Hughes, maybe there are teams out there that, I don't know, like New Jersey or Montreal or somebody else that has a chance to win, convinces him that's where he can go to win. Like LA needs center help, but do they have the pieces to do it? Seattle's probably not an option. Utah is a place where he could go win, right? Cooley's there. Some USA guys are there. So that's a team that potentially could go all in. And I think Florida, Minnesota has already made offers to Detroit about Dylan Larkin. But the wild and wacky offseason is going to be coming. We're going to get some trades. Free agency stinks. And speaking of free agency, Alex Tuch probably heading now to free agency. The Buffalo Sabres and Alex Tuch's camp, they put it off, wanted to focus on playing hockey. Well, he wants the Adrian Kempe deal, $10.6 million, getting that Marty Nature's range. Buffalo has no appetite of doing that, even though Jarmo Kekalainen wants to sign him, even though the player wants to be there. They'll probably test the waters July 1st, and somebody's going to overpay him and pay him for that. It ain't going to be Vegas, but Vegas got its own cap issues to deal with before they could do anything. Like a Tomas Hertl or Aiden Hill is going to be on their way out, especially in any Dylan Larkin trade. But Tuch wants to get paid like one of those players. The market says he can get paid, and Buffalo doesn't want to do it, so he'll probably head to free agency. What about a guy like Sergei Bobrovsky? Is he going to go to free agency? Well, the Panthers and Bobrovsky are far apart on a deal. Player wants term and money. Team doesn't want to do that. I heard that if you get him at 3 times 7, deal will be done. Maybe he wants a little bit longer, but it's hard for goalies to play into their 40s, especially aging one. Yeah, I know he's got 2 cups, but the players want him there. Team wants him there. Still got a little bit of time. Apparently, he could have been moved at the deadline. Again, how realistic was it? Yes, Carolina didn't want to pay a first-round draft pick. Well, that's the price for a guy who won 2 Stanley Cups. Now, would Carolina even be in this position with Bobrovsky? We don't know. But again, reports are that, and again, it was not Bill Zito from people I talked to. Bill Zito was not initiating these conversations for Sergei Bobrovsky. Teams were calling about the goaltender to see what the price was, and the price was too high. And again, now they got to work on a deal. Again, Bill Zito probably wants to go 2 years because Jacob Markstrom got 2 years at 6. They go 2 years at 7. But again, it's going to be difficult because there are goaltenders out there. Jordan Binnington, does he want to move? Connor Hellebuck's another name that could be potentially out there. Again, talking with some people around Winnipeg. There's a chance if they don't do much in the offseason, Connor Hellebuck could want out. Maybe he's already put in a trade request. We don't know that. He probably has because, you heard his comments after the end of the season. It's hard to get guys to stay in Winnipeg. Those 3 of the cornerstone pieces stayed there. Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor Hellebuck long-term. But it's a tough place to play. The team hasn't gotten better. They were promised that they were going to be competitive every year, but they don't have a cover right now to be competitive every year. They could get assets back for guys like this. And when the Winnipeg Jets system breaks down, Connor Hellebuck gets exposed. So if he can go play in a system like he did in Team USA or with a Florida Panthers team or someplace else, he's still one of the best goaltenders in the world. But that doesn't mean anything because Tampa has a great system, and if you can get to the goalie, score a couple of goals, it's over. But I think Connor Hellebuck, the goalie market, is something to watch as well. Alex Tuch is a player to watch. Like, where could some of these teams look to improve, right? Like, they need to improve, some of these teams, especially a team like Toronto. Like, what are they doing at their coaching? Are they going to get Joe Pavelski? Are they going to go the Bruce Cassidy? Bruce Cassidy would love to coach in Toronto. But what's their direction? And the fact that they almost trade Matthew Knies was a disgrace. Would have been disastrous for the team. Matthews' bags would have been packed already. Nylander would have wanted out of the team. It would have been a clear sign of a rebuild was coming in Toronto. But now looks like Gavin McKenna is going to go number one. What kind of direction do they take? I think they need to take, this is just opinion now in this rumor section, but my opinion is Toronto Maple Leafs need to do what's best for Toronto Maple Leafs. Don't follow Boston Bruins. Don't follow what Washington did, pitch this team, what Montreal did. Montreal was in a different situation when they hired Martin St. Louis. The owner accepted a rebuild was coming. This is what they wanted to do. So, again, first-time head coach, what's the direction of this team? But adding Gavin McKenna, adding players that they didn't have, it's worthwhile, right? And now, what is Toronto? Do they move Morgan Riley? How do they add to their team? It's like Edmonton, the Edmonton situation, right? They need a third line center. They need a winger for Matthews and Nyes. They need defensemen. They need this. They need more than a head coach. Both teams need more than a head coach. Like similar to what New Jersey did. New Jersey keeps their head coach like Colorado did. Now you got the Nico Hischier extension. When's that coming in? Again, this could be a little bit longer than people think. Though, as Sonny Meta said, things are going well. As Elaine Waugh said, things are in their early stages. It's preliminary talks. He's really not eligible for an extension until July 1st. That's when things can go and officially be signed. They want to keep him. They want to build around Jack and Nico, according to Sonny Meta. However, that doesn't mean it can be signed right away. He could take his time. He wants to see what this team is doing. He wants to win. 3 playoff appearances, 1 playoff round win, not going to be good enough for the captain. He loves being there, but if there's a better situation out there, I mean, what if a team offers the New Jersey Devils something? But what's the direction of the team then? If he believes in that core, then what's the direction of the team? So New Jersey got work to do. No mention of Simone Nemec. Got a feeling that ship has sailed unless they move off Dougie Hamilton. If they don't move off Dougie Hamilton, then Simone Nemec is gone. Again, it's so weird this time of year because there's so many little nuggets out there. You have Matt Barzal's name out there as well with the Islanders, but the Islanders aren't shopping him. Teams are calling about Matt Barzal. Similar situation with Noah Dobson, but Noah Dobson was eligible for a contract at the end of the year. Barzal's got 5 years left on his deal. But if they get the right offer, do they move him? But they need him. And how does that change the outlook for the Islanders? Like if Jordan Kyrou comes in, could Kyrou go there? If Robert Thomas is off the board, as Jeremy Rutherford and Andy Strickland have pointed out in St. Louis, then is Jordan Kyrou available and is the price for Kyrou gone up? Because those are guys you want to, again, those prices for those 2 players were always high at the trade deadline. But could a player like Mason McTavish go someplace? He signed a 7-year deal, $7 million a season, missed the beginning of training camp, and look what happened. He had a bad year. We saw it the year before with Jeremy Swayman. Does Anaheim give it one more shot with McTavish, or do they move on and say he's just not a pat for beat guy with the cupboard coming with guys like Leo Carlson and Cutter Gauthier needing extensions? They do. And look, I think that McTavish could use a change of scenery. I think it would be best. Montreal's been listed and connected to Mason McTavish since last offseason. It'd be a great fit for them down the middle. Again, so would a bunch of other guys, but are those guys available? But again, Matthew Nyes was almost traded to Montreal. So if you don't ask, you don't know. And now we see that Montreal is a real player, and I expect Montreal to do something this summer. They always have with this group. But again, it's now time on teams to make trades because the free agent market's so thin. John Carlson will probably get a 1-year deal somewhere, maybe a 2-year deal. I know he wanted a longer-term deal in Washington. Washington didn't want to do it. It's part of the reason why Ovi didn't sign right away. If Carlson had signed and maybe Nick Dowd isn't traded, Ovechkin signed right away. But I got a feeling he's staying. He wants to see what Washington does first. But there's so much stuff going on in the National Hockey League. Head of Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. Again, Cale Makar, just one more note. Cale Makar, they want to make him a lifetime Avalanche. You knew that was going to be the possibility. You always knew that was going to be the case. So now everything's settled in Colorado. It's just a matter of price point. They're negotiating everything. Let's see what happens now when it comes to what the number is, because what the number is for Makar will affect Quinn Hughes, will affect the rest of the defense corps. As we saw with Luke Hughes and Jackson Lacombe, is Luke Hughes a $9 million defenseman? If he isn't, then they got to move on. But the Stanley Cup Final continues. Game 5, it's been a great series, back and forth. The momentum shifts. It's hard to carry it from game to game. The loser of one game feels like it's the winner because they have to make the adjustments for the next game. Teams have not won 2 in a row. But I'll say this, Vegas has shown during the previous rounds in a game 5, if they win it, they can close out a series in 6. Could be the case in the Stanley Cup final. A lot of rumors ahead. You know where to keep it. NHLrumours.com is the place to be, has been the place to be for a long time. Check it out. Jim Biringer here. Please like, subscribe, comment, stay tuned. A lot of great things coming. Take care and enjoy.